Doing a fuel filter upgrade to this Kubota BX24. Of course, since it's a BX24, it has a loader on it, so it's going to be a little bit different than the BX2360 fuel filter upgrade that I showed, mainly the fuel filter bracket. It's getting a Racor 120 AT fuel filter. If you get one of these fuel filters, be very careful that you're getting a genuine Racor and not a knockoff. There you can see the part number. And then also going to replace the factory filter that is up by the injection pump. There's the Wix number. And there's the Napa Gold number. Already started out by removing the line up here at the injection pump. Just took a pair of needle nose pliers, was able to pull that clamp off, pull the hose off. I stuck the hose down into this clean container and just turned the key on so the pump would run, and I drained the tank. Since this tractor is getting a Racor upgrade and a good portion of the line has to be replaced, and due to the age of the tractor, this tractor is also going to get all new fuel line, so that was also another reason I went ahead and drained the tank. So I'm going to start out, run a new piece of line from this factory filter to the injection pump and replace this filter. The factory filter was held in place by this bracket on the injection pump. It was held in place with a bolt with a 10mm head. I'll remove the old fuel filter now. Then install the new one. Check your new fuel filter out for the arrow for the direction of the flow. Alright, I have the new fuel filter on, and then the line from the filter to the injection pump. So next thing I'm going to do is run a new piece of line from the fuel filter down to the lift pump. Line runs back through and underneath the tractor. The lift pump is mounted underneath the floorboard. The fuel line I'm using is Gates barricade hose. It's 5/16. That's the Napa part number. That's for a 25-foot roll though. I'm going to cut some of these cable ties to get the fuel line out. Underneath the tractor, I'm going to remove the clamp and the fuel line from the front of the lift pump. Have a drain pan underneath because there's going to be a little bit of fuel laying in the line. That's the old line out of there. I cut a piece of line to the same length as the old line. Alright, the fuel line's back in the protective loom. I put 3 cable ties on it to hold the loom on it for installation, and then I already have the clamps on it. So now I'll fish this line back down through. And while I'm up here, I'll go ahead and put it on the fuel filter. Now back underneath the tractor, the fuel line can be hooked up to the lift pump. Now I'll go along and reinstall cable ties in all the places I cut cable ties from. Go along and trim my cable ties off now. New fuel line from the lift pump forward and a new fuel filter up at the engine. So now it's time to run the fuel tank up and add the Racor fuel filter. This is the fuel filter that gives all the problem on these tractors. It's the fuel filter before the lift pump. Especially in the wintertime, they like to ice up. Hose loosened. Drain pan underneath. If there's any fuel in there. Just a couple drops. Since this fuel filter is getting replaced, there's no need to remove the hose from this end of the filter. Go ahead and unbolt this filter. Getting the line off the tank's a little bit of a pain. What I did was there's brackets here at the back of the tractor. I removed them, the nut comes through to here on the inside. It's a 15mm nut, you have one on each side. Remove that. On top. Remove this piece. It helps hold the owner's manual. Then your seat rests down on it. There's two 19mm bolts here in the middle. Then unhook the switches on your seat and these connectors, or these wire holders. Push up on them like that and they'll come right through the hole in the seat. And you pull a pin out of the seat, slides over to the right, have a hold of it good, slide it over to the right, and it'll go off the tractor. And after doing all that, the tank is loosened up, still not very loose. That big loom in the right side of the screen is the fuel line. It goes back in there about 5 inches or so. I'm going to take a long pair of needle nose pliers and hopefully get the clamp off and be able to pull the hose off. I was able to get the clamp and hose off with the help of an assistant while they held up on the tank. Used a long pair of needle nose pliers to go in and remove the clamp. Once the clamp was off, I used a long pair of needle nose pliers to also remove the hose. Just be careful when you're pulling the hose off of the 90-degree fitting that it does not come out of the grommet and tear the grommet. Alright, I got the fuel line removed from the fuel tank. If you're not replacing your fuel line and you're just doing a fuel filter upgrade, what's normally done is you remove the fuel filter, this piece of line, it's no longer needed. Then you get a double-ended barb fitting that'll slide inside the hose that's coming down from the tank, and then you can use it as a connector and run a new piece of hose up to your fuel filter, run up to the fuel filter, then run back from the fuel filter over to the lift pump, and you'll be done. Next step for me is making a bracket to mount the filter, so that way I'll know how long to make a new piece of line to replace this line and to run up to the new fuel filter. I ran the new piece of fuel line up through underneath the tractor. Then I got to the rear, I put the loom back over it and use cable ties to hold it on. Then to fish it back up through the tank, what I did was I stuck a bolt in the end of it, wrapped a piece of wire around it, and then slid the hose clamp on and was able to fish it up through. Well, I ran the wire down through and hooked it up out here and pulled it up through to where it is now. Got the fuel line back on the tank now, so I'll go ahead and get the tank all bolted back in. I'll reinstall the left side fuel tank bracket. Now I'll do the same thing on the right side. Now the seat support bracket can be reinstalled. And reinstall the owner's manual holder bracket. Carriage bolt goes through this way, and a nut goes right here. It has a pin to help align it. It's going to be difficult to record, so I'm not going to be able to show bolting that back in. Now the seat can go back on. Hook up the seat switches. And reinstall the holders. And the fuel filter bracket can be installed. Use 2 pieces of 1/4-inch plate, drilled and tapped the bolt holes to hold the filter on. Now I'll torque the loader bolts to 108 foot-pounds. I decided to mount the fuel filter on the loader bracket since this is for a customer, because that way you can walk up to the tractor and you'll be able to see the fuel filter and see if it has any water in it. Another place I was considering was mounting it up in here. There's what that would have looked like. It'd be very well protected there, but you cannot see the clear bowl in the filter without looking underneath the tractor. I'm not sure if there'd be enough clearance also if you had a mid-mount mower. Here's a better look on a tractor without a loader. There's a bolt already holding the floorboard down, and if you look, there's a piece of tape covering a bolt hole, so a bracket could have easily been fabricated. And it looks like to me, with a mid-mount mower, there is enough room for one to be mounted there. Get the fuel filter ready for installation. Now I'm going to put some thread sealant tape on the fittings. Slide some protective loom over the fuel line. Protect it where it's running back through the floorboard. Got the protective loom installed over the line going into the filter. Leaving this line disconnected now so it's not in the way to install the line going out of the filter to the lift pump. To get the line ready for installation, I stuck a bolt inside of it, put a clamp on it so that way dirt won't be going inside of it. Then I already have the protective loom, so now I can fish it. Now I got both lines hooked up to the filter. Some cable ties on the line. You gotta be careful. Thing with that yellow and black sticker on it is the drive shaft. You don't want your fuel lines getting tangled up in the drive shaft. So now I'm ready to turn the key on, check for leaks, and bleed the system. Everything underneath the tractor looks good and dry. I started up and let it run for about 30 seconds. Everything's good. Wanted to show you the factory primary filter that came off this tractor. You can see it had a lot of debris in it.